third part. Yes, because if it's not same-sex love condemned, so we hear about those traditions condemning sodomy, homosexuality, we don't really know. Okay. As I said, in Sodom and Gomorrah, they had that pagan practice that has been also going on in Arab Muslim societies up until 19th century in Syria and elsewhere. Patriarchal ancestors having sex with whoever they want to have sex with without asking, droit de cuissage. So we know that the first condemned for so-called sodomy, عمل قوم لوط in قوم لوط in Arabic, after the death of the Prophet. So the Prophet didn't kill anyone. So it's not about homosexuality or same-sex love. I told you why. So why is it? And when did they start condemning those people, those sodomites in Islam? After the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him. That's pretty clear in the tradition, in history books. Because he didn't kill anyone for that. For that someone called, during the time of the Khalif Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, a huge companion also. He was called, that guy who was killed, Fuja'a. So anybody who knows Arabic, once again, just like with Sharia, Fuja'a, Faja, in any dialect, it's not about an effeminate man. It's about someone who, it's about a surprise attack. Someone who's stabbing you in the back, violently, a traitor, someone that is pretty virilist and imposing his power, not an effeminate man. So we see here, as I said, that there is diversity, gender, sexual diversity at that time, we know it now. And plus, they had different categories to describe those people and so on. So they didn't have that kind of very closed boxes and pseudoscience like in Europe 19th century, but they had some kind of categories. So once again, I don't believe in those people like, anyway, some people saying, oh, we didn't have that in us, it's not part of our culture. No, it was part of our culture. From the very beginning, what we call nowadays lesbians, intersex, gays, transgender, rapists, and so on. Important information, Khalid ibn al-Walid, Sayf al-Islam, he was like a great fighter, defending Islam. He was fighting against Muslims in the beginning, killing a lot of Muslims and so on and so forth, and then Muslims had to leave from Mecca to Medina and so on. But then when he became Muslim, he was one of the greatest warrior of Islam, greatest fighter in Islam. And still, when he encountered Fuja'a raping his brothers, Muslims, because his tribe decided not to be Muslim anymore and to kill Muslims and to take the power newly established in Medina. So Khalid ibn al-Walid, even though he was very brave, and sometimes the Prophet was also, peace be upon him, asking forgiveness for what Khalid ibn al-Walid did. He was sometimes killing prisoners, while the Prophet said, don't kill them. Let them teach writing and reading to other Muslims and so on and so forth and so on. So even that, he was brave, perhaps even violent, I don't know. He didn't kill him, straightforward. He had to send a letter to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, to the Caliph, and to ask him, what do I do with that guy? He's going back to Jahiliyyah, to ignorance, to the old pagan practices of our forefathers, and he's raping our brothers, our Muslim brothers, because he says his tribe does not want to be Muslim anymore, and they want to get the power for their tribe. You know, tribal issues still nowadays going on. Okay, so Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu, he said that that guy was practicing the practice of Amal Qawm Lut. He was like from the people of Lut. So now we have a clear identification of what, in their mind, first Arab Muslims, what they were talking about when they said people of Lut crimes, fahisha, abomination. Clearly, for me, it's about rape once again. He had to gather a council and workshop by 7:50. Yeah, I'm just reading. Okay, yeah, I can wrap up soon. Thank you so much. So he gathered a council and he told to his closest companions, okay, the Prophet, peace be upon him, died. He never had to deal with that because it was a pagan practice that we didn't practice for years in our tribes. So what do I have to do? And then they had different points of view. Some people said stone him, some people said burn him, and they finally stone him, I think, or burn him alive. But many companions, including great companions doing exegesis of the Quran, like Ibn Abbas from the family of the Prophet, while the Prophet was alive, said, no, we should not kill him, because there's no had, there's no body punishment for that kind of crimes. We don't know for sure. We should just put him in jail. But they decided finally to kill him. So you see, even though it's not homosexuality, even though it's rape, they had a debate about the fact that it's not necessarily about death penalty when you find someone doing that. Okay, I'm going to go a bit quicker now. I think you understood the point. The point is, like, we can prove pretty easily, if we go deep into the analysis of those sources, that it has nothing to do with homosexuality or same-sex love. There's traditions like this. There's only 2 traditions like this one. I'll let you read it, but you have it on the PowerPoint that can be sent to you. Mixing a lot of crimes, just like the Quran said. So we have a tradition from the Prophet who would have said, that God curses this and this and that, and those who are indulging in the crime of the people of Lot. So now we know it's not about homosexuality. But it turned out, a few centuries later, to be quoted as this is a condemnation of homosexuality, while it has nothing to do with it. It was at first zoophilia. And there's even a hadith saying that you have to kill the animal which has been raped by the guy who is raping him. So why killing a poor animal who is not demanding, asking anything? And they were, so obviously for me it has nothing to do with an authentic tradition of the Prophet. Plus it is relied to people like Abu Hurairah. There's only 2 traditions like this about killing homosexuals, or at least condemning homosexuals, as they say, and the man having sex together and so on. So this is not people of Lot, and this is same-sex love that is contained in those 2 traditions, and they are related to people who are considered to be liars. I'm not saying they are liars, I'm just saying they're considered at that time to be liars. Abu Hurairah, another guy, Ikrimah, the slave of Ibn Abbas, the one I was telling you about, from the family of the Prophet, the guy who was against death penalty for sodomy, ritual rape. So that guy, that slave, was not agreeing with his master, and he was very harsh on everyone. Actually, he would be considered nowadays, he was a Khariji, a sect, a cult, that would be called nowadays jihadism. Anyway, if we want to wrap up what we've said, what I've said, that you have to brainstorm about and agree or disagree, or give us more inputs or questions about that. Does the Quran and the Hadith tradition of the Prophet, peace be upon him, talks about stoning gays, like we see Daesh, ISIS doing. Nowhere it is condemned, homosexuality or intersexuality, transidentity, nowhere in the Quran, neither in the Hadith, nowhere, not once. The only, as I told you, 2 traditions. For example, there's that tradition saying, the Prophet said, from Abu Hurairah, of those people who indulge in the crime of the people of Lot, stone the one who is above, the active, we call it nowadays, and the one below, the passive. Stone them together. And another version, it's about the animal, I told you. Huh? So that only hadith about stoning, and stoning is not a had, is not a punishment in the Quran. No way. It's coming from Abu Hurairah. According to the fiqh, traditional arkan, al-ahadith, usul al-hadith, like the pillars of hadith, of tradition, we should not accept a tradition coming from someone who has been even just slightly accused of anything wrong. It's right, it's true, it's false. Scholars at that time didn't care. If you are accused of something, we don't take your tradition for granted. But still, those traditions are still in our books. How comes? Traditions massively reported that Abu Hurairah was taking too much hadith. He seemed to be questioning himself about his own homosexuality. He came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, in one hadith, he said, I could not get married 3 times. And then at the end, the Prophet, because he was a mukhannat, an effeminate man, at the end, the Prophet said, you can get married And if you could not, then it's fine, because your destiny has been decided for you. Qalam has been decided. It has been decided for you. So you see, the Prophet, peace be upon him, knew who was talking to him, and it's the same guy who had that very, very homophobic, very misogynistic traditions made up according to what other people said. So once again, it's not a coincidence. Self-hatred, hate of women, imposing their desire that I do not understand. Psychologically, very tricky person. But anyway, that tradition should not be taken into account. Umar ibn Khattab would have said that he was liar. Aisha said that he should not repeat everything he thinks he heard. Ikrimah, the second guy with that second hadith, was also very controversial, very homophobic, very jihadist, we would call it nowadays. So he was part of a cult. We should not take that only other tradition saying that same-sex love is condemned. That's it. Because that's the rules in ahadith, traditional ones. If we want to be progressive and reformist, and this is even more clear and easier, but to talk about the mainstream Muslim community, we're using the same tools for 1,200 years, and we don't have to take that hadith for granted. Quran, how dare you practice an abomination that no people before you had practiced. So that verse is very clear. It's not about homosexuality unless you think that those studies in hundreds and hundreds of species about same-sex intercourse in insects, fish, mammals, humans, it's part of nature. Maybe we can discuss about what is the philosophical reason or the metaphysical reason why homosexuality exists, why we here as homosexuals and so on and so forth, but it's part of nature. So those who are telling you, it's not natural, all false, once again. Terminology has been invented in Europe 19th century. So state homophobia has been imported from Europe to the Arab Muslim societies at that time. So that is not from our culture. That is not Islamic. State homophobia, fascism, and so on and so forth. Not invented by sodomites 5,000 years ago. So this is not true. This is not how we can understand in a coherent, systematic representation of the Quran. This is not what we could understand. Violent patriarchs raping male and female youth and strangers and so on and so forth. Nothing to do with love, lust, fahisha, shahwa. In Arabic, it has nothing to do with love, with hub. Not a word about lesbians, no effeminate men, so it's different categories. They knew about that, but that's not what is condemned in the tradition nor in the Quran. Big difference between mukhannath and luti. Luti, that term has been invented afterwards to describe those who are into raping people and those who are into prostitution a few centuries ago, and then homosexuals nowadays. But that terminology has a history when you can retrace it nowadays if you go to the books of that time. Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, welcomed the first, mukhannathun, and condemned the second, the luti. That's very clear that it's two different categories. Another tradition, God curses whoever sacrifices an animal to another deity, and so on and so forth. And the crime, those who indulges in the crime of the people of Lot. Second tradition from Ikrimah, Abu Dawood, the scholar writing down the tradition. It's about ritual rape, nothing to do with same-sex love. None was condemned during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. Very important, we're supposed to follow his tradition. So this is his tradition about welcoming in your home people who are discriminated, that other people are trying to kill just because they don't have the right gender, the right sexuality. The Islamic ethics about respecting diversity is quoted in the Quran. The fact that diversity is part of the creation, we have to embrace it. This is why we are here to understand why God decided to do it that way. So many verses about that. So many verses about man not having the attributes of masculinity, rujuliya. That's in the Quran. So those effeminate men are also described in the Quran. The fact that you don't have to kill them or hurt them, whatever. Women who do not want to get married with a man, you don't have to force them. That's also a verse of the Quran. But homophobia, transphobia, misogynia, not to my knowledge. Also rebelling against the new centralized political power in Medina. It's about politics. They were fighting against one another, raping one another, pagan practices, raising from the past to humiliate the new Muslim so-called nation, not into nationalism, but that has to do more with politics than with gender studies. Fuja'a, that guy condemned, was a fierce fighter, a thief and a rebel tribe leader, not a muhannath. There is no trace of a passive companion Fuja'a, but we know his victims. So there is muhannathun with their companion. We can understand they were in love, they were not condemned by the Prophet, peace be upon him. But that guy Fuja'a was known as a rapist and a thief and a leader of a tribe fighting against Muslims at that time, not as a lover. So, as I said, we don't have time to go through pinkwashing and homonationalism, just few references before homosexuality. Samah Habib about Islam and homosexuality. She also wrote a book about female homosexuality, very interesting book in Arabic, French, and English. PDF for free online, to my knowledge. Scott Kugel, a much more deeper analysis than ours, homosexuality in Islam, and our book about to be translated in different languages, inshallah. We can send you some of our books or manuals to train imams or to train yourself or your community, whatever, but on PDF by email. A bibliography you can find back on the presentation and on our website and our contacts. Thank you so much for your patience.